Imagine a world where an invisible terror sweeps through cities, claiming lives with horrifying speed, leaving doctors baffled and communities paralyzed by fear. This was the grim reality of the 19th century, an era plagued by cholera, a disease whose origins were shrouded in mystery and superstition. But amidst the panic, one visionary doctor dared to challenge the prevailing wisdom, a man so convinced of his own theory that he would stake his very life on it. His name was Max von Pettenkofer, and his radical experiment, drinking a vial of cholera-infected water, would become one of history's most audacious and controversial scientific acts. In the bustling, rapidly industrializing cities of the 19th century, a silent killer stalked the streets: cholera. Its symptoms were terrifying, sudden, violent diarrhea and vomiting, rapid dehydration, and often death within hours. Entire families could be wiped out in a single epidemic. The medical community was desperate, yet utterly bewildered. Lacking modern microbiology, they grappled with theories ranging from divine punishment to cosmic influences. The sheer speed and devastating impact of cholera outbreaks left a deep psychological scar on society, a fear unlike almost any other disease of its time. For centuries, the dominant explanation for diseases like cholera was the miasma theory. It posited that illnesses were caused by bad air, noxious fumes emanating from decomposing organic matter, sewage, and overcrowded environments. This theory made intuitive sense in dirty cities, leading to efforts like improving sanitation and ventilation. While these measures did improve public health, they didn't fully explain the specific, devastating spread of cholera. Doctors would often sniff the air, believing they could detect the presence of disease. It was a comfortable, if incomplete, explanation for a terrifying problem. Enter Max von Pettenkofer, a brilliant German chemist and hygienist. Born in 1818, Pettenkofer was a formidable intellectual figure, a professor at the University of Munich. He wasn't just a theorist, he was a practical public health reformer. He championed better sewage systems, clean water supplies, and improved housing conditions. His extensive research led him to believe that cholera wasn't solely caused by a specific pathogen, but rather by an intricate interplay of environmental factors: soil conditions, groundwater levels, and organic decomposition, which then somehow activated the disease agent. He saw the human body as a landscape where the disease could either flourish or wither. While Pettenkofer championed his environmentalist view, another revolutionary idea was gaining traction: germ theory. Pioneered by scientists like Louis Pasteur and Joseph Lister, it proposed that specific microorganisms, or germs, cause specific diseases. The most impactful figure in the context of cholera was Robert Koch. In 1883, while working in Egypt and India, Koch isolated the comma-shaped bacterium responsible for cholera, Vibrio cholerae. This discovery was a monumental breakthrough, directly linking a single microorganism to a deadly disease, seemingly disproving the long-held miasma beliefs. Koch's discovery of the cholera Vibrio sent shockwaves through the scientific community. For many, it was definitive proof of germ theory, rendering Pettenkofer's complex environmental hypothesis obsolete. But Pettenkofer was unconvinced. He argued that merely identifying a bacterium wasn't enough. Countless people were exposed to pathogens without falling ill. He believed that the soil and groundwater conditions were paramount, acting as a crucial intermediary for the bacteria to become virulent. This wasn't just an academic debate. It was a fundamental disagreement about how to fight disease, carrying immense implications for public health policy and the very future of medicine. When Robert Koch returned to Germany, he was hailed as a hero. His isolation of the cholera Vibrio was seen as a definitive answer, validating the germ theory and offering a clear path to prevention: target the bacterium itself. Medical schools began to integrate his findings, and the paradigm shifted. However, Pettenkofer, with his established reputation and deep-seated convictions, remained a powerful dissenting voice. He conceded that Koch had found his seed, but insisted that the soil, the environmental conditions, was what determined whether that seed would grow into a deadly plague. The stage was set for a dramatic confrontation. Pettenkofer, an ardent empiricist, couldn't reconcile Koch's simple bacterial explanation with his years of observations on cholera outbreaks. He had seen too many instances where the bacteria were present, yet no epidemic occurred, or vice versa. He believed that Koch's discovery was merely one piece of a much larger, more complex puzzle. The true culprit, he maintained, was an interaction between the cholera vibrio and specific local factors, particularly the drying and wetting cycles of the soil, which he believed activated the pathogen. His unwavering conviction would lead him to the precipice of a radical and dangerous personal experiment. Driven by his unshakable belief that the cholera vibrio alone could not cause the disease in a healthy individual, Pettenkofer decided to conduct the ultimate self-experiment. His goal was not to disprove Koch's existence of the bacterium, but to demonstrate that it was not the sole or sufficient cause of cholera. He intended to prove that without the activating environmental conditions, even a direct ingestion of the bacteria would not lead to full-blown cholera. It was a perilous gamble, one that defied all medical wisdom of the time and placed his own life in direct peril for the sake of science. On October 7, 1892, in his laboratory at the University of Munich, Max von Pettenkofer made history. He received a fresh, virulent culture of Vibrio cholerae directly from Robert Koch's laboratory. Despite warnings from colleagues, and fully aware of the potentially fatal consequences, he prepared for his experiment. With a small group of witnesses present, he poured the cloudy, bacteria-laden liquid into a glass, measured it, and without hesitation, brought it to his lips. The air was thick with tension, a mix of apprehension and scientific curiosity. This was not just a drink. It was a direct challenge to the burgeoning germ theory. The liquid went down. Pettenkofer had ingested approximately 1 cubic centimeter of a highly concentrated cholera culture. He even added a small amount of soda to neutralize stomach acid, ensuring the bacteria's survival. The immediate aftermath was quiet, tense anticipation. There was no instant reaction, no sudden collapse. But the clock began ticking. Every hour, every day that followed would be an agonizing test of his theory and of his own physiological resilience. He knew the risks. He had placed his life on the line for a scientific principle he believed in more than anything. The days following the ingestion were a period of intense observation and anxiety. Pettenkofer meticulously documented his symptoms. For several days, nothing. Then he experienced mild diarrhea and stomach discomfort, but crucially, not the violent, life-threatening symptoms of full-blown Asiatic cholera. His urine samples were clear of albumin, a key indicator of kidney failure, and he recovered fully within a week. He hadn't died. He hadn't even become severely ill. To him, this was irrefutable proof. The cholera vibrio, by itself, was not enough. His body, in his own carefully controlled environment, had resisted the onslaught. Pettenkofer had survived. His dramatic stunt, which could have easily cost him his life, yielded an outcome that initially seemed to support his environmental theory. He argued that his survival was due to the absence of the specific local factors he believed were necessary to activate the bacteria's virulence. This was not a complete repudiation of Koch's discovery, but rather an assertion that the equation was far more complex than just a single germ. His survival, however, baffled many and deeply troubled proponents of the germ theory, forcing them to reevaluate their understanding of disease transmission. Today, we understand Pettenkofer's survival through a more nuanced lens. He likely possessed a degree of natural immunity from previous, asymptomatic exposures, or perhaps the specific culture he drank, though virulent, was of a lower infective dose for him personally. It's also possible his robust general health played a role. Crucially, while germ theory ultimately prevailed, Pettenkofer wasn't entirely wrong. We now know that cholera does require specific environmental conditions, like contaminated water sources and poor sanitation, to spread rapidly and devastate populations. His experiment, though misguided in its premise, inadvertently highlighted the complex interplay between pathogen, host, and environment. Max von Pettenkofer's audacious act, born of a deep conviction and a desire to understand, stands as a testament to the risk scientists have taken in pursuit of knowledge. While his miasma-influenced theory of cholera was eventually superseded by germ theory, his contributions to public health were immense. His insistence on clean water, sewage systems, and environmental hygiene laid the groundwork for modern urban sanitation, saving countless lives regardless of the exact cause of the disease. His legacy reminds us that even when specific theories are proven incomplete, the relentless pursuit of understanding can lead to invaluable progress. Max von Pettenkofer's self-experiment was a spectacular gamble, a dramatic moment where science, conviction, and personal risk collided. While the germ theory of disease ultimately provided a more accurate and comprehensive understanding, Pettenkofer's audacious act served a vital purpose. It highlighted the complexity of disease, the critical role of environmental factors, and the human element in scientific discovery. His life and his brush with death remind us that the path to knowledge is often paved with challenges, debates, and sometimes extraordinary acts of courage, forever etching his name into the annals of medical history.